Hello, this is Max Stroke. I just want to go through this tutorial. I found this on here, AutoHotkey forum, classes in AutoHotkey basic tutorial. So I was starting, and I did a previous video where I got a time capture program that I've got, which basically just does a little bit of time sheeting through that with a GUI. And I tried to adapt that with my little knowledge of classes, and I sort of created a class and then just inputted the stuff in, and I made it happen. And I was doing very, very little baby steps of trying to learn classes and kind of using one variable and maybe two or three and stuff like that, and just twisting each time and doing stuff. It's a very, very crude. Then I came across this one here. So this was done in January 2005 by a gentleman called, I don't know, by a person called samardac. So I don't know where he's from, but he's got this tutorial. So it's just a general overview of things like here, and it's quite good. We will discuss classes, instances, variables, methods, nested classes, class inheritances, new and delete. It doesn't actually discuss delete, but that's all right. So this is cool. We're going to discuss nested classes and class inheritance. They're sort of quite intimidating, so let's go through. So he kind of has his first little bit through there, and then the first example, of course, he has to give a bloody car. So here's the car one through here. So you can just hit on here and hit and download to actually bring those down. So here he's actually got a class called car. He's got a couple of variables through here, which he's assigning something to a variable, and then he's got a couple of methods which are also sort of functions, and then there'll be some sort of command through there. So that's the stuff, and then he creates an instance of this class through there. So that's the idea of that. Then he gets into some practical examples. So the next one he actually gets through here is a class called a window. This is to do with a pop-up window on your computer, not actually a window frame or something like that. And what he says, well, okay, he's going to have a title. I want to look for one called untitled notepad. So we can actually just test it. So what it's actually saying, there's a class called that, and there's a variable called title, and it says we're going to activate it if the window exists, which actually has that name, which is that title. Then activate that window. So it needs to be running and sitting down in your toolbar. Or else, then says a message box saying I haven't got it. Now what it's going to do is, so that's the actual class. So it's got a variable through there, and it's got a method through there which is activated. We then create an instance through there, and we do a return. Then it's got a hotkey to actually activate to run this script here. So the first one, we just actually create the instance, and it's sitting there, and then we can run it, and we can run it again. So let's just run that. So we can run it now. So that's started at this point in time, and then we can go Control-Shift-A. Nothing happens. There's no window, untitled notepad. Please run notepad, it says. So if I now run notepad, and then I drop that down, and if I go Control-Alt-A, it goes and looks for one called untitled if it's there. So if I'd done file, open, and I've got one here called something different. So this is the one that I've got, and it's down. So I have an active one of Windows, but if I now go Control-Alt-1, it says there's no window untitled because it's looking via the title. So that's all that one there does. So it's seeing if it's there, and if it's there, it activates it. So we have a class, and it just activates the thing. We create an instance of the class, and then we've actually got this method that we're actually calling off here based on this instance that we've created. So we've got the instance, and we're looking for the instance which actually has this. So the next one that we've got through here is that so that's very simple. So the next, so let's do something with classes now. So let's break it. So once we've got the window, it has lots of properties. The window has things like the window title, Windows ID, Windows position, Windows size. And once we actually get those things about the window, we can then manipulate them if we want. Also, we can make Windows a lot of action. For example, activate it, get its title, get its ID, get its position, and then you get things to do, as I said. So let's just start. So here, we're going and getting. So we got a class called Windows. It has no variables, but we go and we have this method here called get that goes and gets the title if there's an active window. And then it goes and gets and it puts it onto a variable, and it goes and gets the ID of that active window, and it puts it against this variable ID. then we can activate it, and it's based on the ID that it used the ID to actually activate it. And then we can actually, this is called announcement. So this one here is just message box, and it's another method that actually just takes this information and displays it. So it's then got this one here, which is A. So sorry, it creates an instance, and then it says it needs to be a notepad. So it's saying if window exists of a notepad type, then do this. If it doesn't, don't. So we're not going to have a window thing at the moment. So we're going to close that last one down, and we're going to run this one here, and we're going to go if it exists. So if we go Control Alt A, it just says there's no window notepad, and it says please. So we need to put an S in the please. Save, and we can rerun that. So that's what we're doing through this. So now we're going to activate the window, and this one here says Control S says if the window ID exists, then activate it, and if not, then just something saying there. So at this point in time, I can do Control Alt S, and it says there's no ID, so I can't activate anything. So let's go back to the first one here. So if I go Control Alt A. Oh, sorry, no, there's no window. So I've got to actually start an instance of Notepad. Now I go Control Alt A, and it says this is untitled Notepad. So it's given us the title of it, and it's given us the ID of it in hexadecimal. And so that's what that's doing there. So at that point in time, it's got an ID there. So if I run the second one through here, Control Alt S, it then says activate that window. Now, by playing with this before, it's doing this return, and it's returning the ID. It doesn't actually need that there for starters. It just needs to return. This is actually returning the ID from here of actually activating it, but it's already got it up at this level, and it doesn't need to return it. So sometimes with a function or a method, you can return an object, a variable or something through. We don't need to do that at this point in time. So we're just going to save that and rerun this one through here. Now, this one, it says, first of all, if this exists, then if it doesn't, if it exists, just check if it doesn't. It just jumps to the next one. It then gets this information. The second one says if the window exists. So we just rerun it here again. And so if I do Control Alt S, this one here, nothing happens because we haven't got the information. Now the window is down here and it's active, but we didn't go and use the get command to get any of this. It's only after we've run A that we've gone through and got the ID of the thing through there. So I need to run A first. I could actually run it in here. I could say if window exists there, and then I could then say get inside here. But what this is highlighting is that it's needing the ID, and the only place that got the ID is under the hotkey Alt A, Control Alt A. So if I just go Control Alt A now, here it is, we've got the ID. We can put it or we can drop it down so that it's hidden away. Now we can, with 2, we can activate it because we now have its ID. So we can now Control Alt S and up it pops. So that's it. So this doesn't exist, the window ID doesn't exist until we go and get it and bring that variable in and assign it there. Now you see I actually ran that bit out there and it doesn't actually need it at that point in time. So that's the first thing that I wanted to highlight through there. So we stopped that one through there. So that was very good. So, you know, on this one here, we could expand it and suddenly saying, instead of actually bringing back the, instead of bringing back the title and the ID, we could have gone back the position, and we could got the size of the window, and then we could reduce it or highlight it or extend it or do something like that. And we could do some other manipulations through there. So those are the actions that we can do there. So now we can automatically get the information about the windows. We can now do something about them. So that's one of the ones. Did I miss one out? That one looks as if no, that's all right. So we've done that. So now let's look at nested classes. So we go to the next one here through here. and it has a class and its class windows. And if we look at this, it's exactly the same as the one before. Apart from, I think the activate has an if it is or else it isn't. So if it's not active, then it's saying that it isn't active. But it's pretty much the same thing. So we got the get, activate, and announce the properties, which is just the message box of this. That one I've got to rem out because there is nothing through there. So, sorry, and we don't need that one there either. So the next thing that we've got, or if you look at this code through here, you'll see that it has just creating some window. So it's just creating this line here through here. So it's creating a new instance of that. But if we look at the class, we've got the class which has all of those. So if we just hide those lines there, or take that out, that's pretty much identical to the one we had before. So what we've done is inside that class we've got a nested class. So that means you can only access this class via this one. You can't poke into that one directly, you've got to get through there. So what does that mean? So first of all, we're going to create SumWin is equal to a new Windows class. So we're creating a new instance of this top class through there. And that's all we're doing is just initializing it. And then we've got a hotkey and we're going to activate the class notepad, then we're going to get it and we're going to do it. So it's still got to be running at this point in time. So we've got to manually start auto hotkey. We've got to manually start notebook to make it work. And then we're doing exactly the same thing with S. It's just showing us it'll activate the instance once it's got the ID. And then last of all, it's doing something where it's going in and it's telling us what these variables here are, which are in the nested class. So let's run this. So we're going to just run that through there. Oh, wait a minute, let me just save and I'll just reload that. And then we're going to do, what are we going to do? We're going to do control that out. So A does that, it's given us a notepad, it's given us the ID of whatever it is. We're going to drop it so it's back behind. So this is the active window at this point in time. If I go control out S, it activates that window through there again. We're going to drop through there. And if we go control out D, it's showing us some window temp A. So this instance, some window, temp, and it's that subclass there, temp, and the variable A. Now if you saw that, it actually says it's equal to nothing. There's nothing there, yet up here is equal to 1, and the static B is equal to 1. So let's just go and read what he says there. Now if you press the control alt D, you will see the message sumwin.temp.a is equal to nothing. Why? Let's look at how our variables were declared. So as you can see, A is declared like a simple variable, and this kind of variable has a name. It's an instance variable. So this one here is an instance variable. So we have to create an instance of temp, then we can give it a variable. So you can't just have it assigned like it is just there. So wait a minute, I might have to think about that one. Because can I actually just put this dot class, did I? A is assigned equal of this dot B is equal to 1. Now if I've got it like that, I go save and I go run, and it breaks down here and it says unknown class var, so it doesn't like it like that. Well, maybe I can actually go is equal to A, and outside of here I can go A is equal to 1. So let's just, A is assigned 1. So let's just run that. Still breaks, so it doesn't like that in that one. So we just leave this as A is equal to 1, and we take that out there. Oh, we're not passing it in at all through anyway. So we've got that one through there, and control save, we'll rerun that, and we'll go control alt D, and you'll see that we still got it as blank. So the reason why is that that's a normal one that's based on this instance here, but we can see B. So we can create an instance only when they are created. So we do not create instances for window.temp. But if we decide to do it, it will look like this. Some win1, so we could actually say, if we wanted to make an instance of that, we could say some windows temp is equal to new windows.temp. So we can create an instance through there, and then inside here, it should, let's just see if that now runs, because we've now created that instance. And if we go through there and go S, and I want to go there, and Control Alt D, it's still not showing you anything. So I've got, show me some win temp A down here. I've created this one here, I've created a new instance called some win temp of instance of this one here. It still won't show me temp. But what I can do, I don't actually need to have that in there. I can actually say, and this is something you can have some win, so that's the top level. You can then have, you put a dot to say that it's now the sub window of that through there. And to get to the element there, you go some win, which is the top class, then the next class down, and then the attribute or the variable that you're actually pointing at is equal to 1. Now if I do that and go I'll save that and I'll reload that, and then if I go Control Alt D, whoops, I'm not running, something's happened there. Control save, Control run. 51. Oh, I've deleted something. Let's just set out of that a minute. There it is. I'd erased some of that there. So if I just rem out of that and put that one through there. Sorry, I deleted part of that line through there. So if I now run that, that should run all right. There's a problem. 50. See, it's ended up into here. Oh, there. Save. I'll come down into here and run it. It's safe into there. Now I can go Control Alt D, and there we've now assigned one. So this one here has allowed us to assign, even though we've only got this top window and not the nested window inside, I can actually assign this one. So I can actually assign it as 3. So it doesn't matter what's in there up the top here. If I assign that as 3 in there, save, and we'll reload that, and if I just come down to here and go Control Alt D, you'll see it now says it's 3. So that's how you'd assign it, but that's how you'd assign it in a normal class from the outside if you're bringing it in. So so we're able to do that if we want. So let's go through there, but we'll look through there, and the instance of this variable will be available. After we've created the instance, this variable A will be able to hear. So we've created the instance. Oh, sorry, well, what he's saying. Let me just go back onto that and take that out there. Whoops, sorry. Let me just reread that again. So we've created an instance of the temp is equal to new window.temp. After we created this instance, this variable A will be available here. Oh, sorry. So to there, I'm just going to do a second message box, and just so that I can leave it up. Yeah, you're being temperamental here. V, enter, and then I'm going to just leave a space down here because I want to delete it. So I've actually got to put some win temp. That's why I got it wrong. It's good. So if I make it some win temp, so this is the new instance of the temp one, and then I'm calling up this instance here, and then that should be available. So that variable in there should be available. So if we now run that one, and if I go Control Alt D, it's not available. Oh, wait a minute, sorry, it is. It's available in the second one. So if I just rem that first one there out, if I rem that out and go save and reload and go Control Alt D, it is available. So we can go in and reach it that way. But we can get B. So how come we can get B but we can't get A? So I just go back and leave the original back through there, and we can do that. So I can read it as long as I actually create a class instance to that one there. So the second one is B. So A. So let's move to variable V. It has the word static. This kind of variable called static variables, they are belonging to the class itself. So that is why we can always access it. And our messages show us that B is equal to 1. So static sort of means that this is something built in stone, so that the variable, it doesn't vary, it's actually just given a value, and that value is there. So where you'd actually have something like this is if you were doing a math equation or something of a formula, and maybe you were doing something like getting the circumference and the area of a circle. So you've got a 3.14, so you've got pi in there, 3.141592654 or whatever. So you can have that static. It's never going to change. You're always going to have that pi standing for 3.14159. So it's not going to be used. So you don't actually need to have an instance of it to be created to access it. So any instance you do is going to be the same. So static just means that it's available and it's going to be the same one all the way through. So it's not changeable. So in some ways it's not a variable. It's a static value. And all you're doing is assigning it to that. So that means it's always going to be used, whatever you call it, and it's going to come there. So you might have instance A, so we've got this one here, instance A through here. Well, actually, I'll tell you how we do that. We do it here. We'll do some win is equal to new win, and we'll go some win is equal to new window, some win 1. Now you can actually make the some win temp A is equal to 3, and you can actually have some win 1 temp A is equal to 5. But in all instances, some win 1 and some win dot temp dot A, or even just a some win thing, B will always be 1 because it's static. It's just a fixed plumbing number in a way. So that's one of the things. So these ones you can change. So that's just the normal variables. This is a static variable which just suddenly says it's a fixed value from what I can figure out through there. So that's the argument for that control. Leave that waffle there. Okay, so that's what it's going through there. So this is the next bit that I find quite wonderful. So that sort of is quite good from what it is. We'll stop that one. Sorry, I'm just going to save that. We've killed that one there. So we come on to the next thing called inheritance. Now I think this is quite cool. So you have one class A, and class A has 2 static variables. So the var1 is equal to 1, star2, we can just leave them as whatever we want. Now class B is equal to class A plus this extra bit. So a class B extends A says that basically class B includes all of class A. So we can now create a new class which is called new class B. So if we now run this, so here the message box hasn't bothered. This has just got class A has got 2 static variables and class B has 1 static variable. Actually, it's not a static variable, but that variable can actually change. So let's just run that through there. So, and all we're doing is we're creating one instance, new class of a new B. We're only creating a new one there. So if we just run this one here, what happened? There we are. If we run that, we can actually see, because we've assigned class A, we've got var1 is equal to 1, var2 is 2, var3 is 3. Now, if I decide I'm going to actually only have, I'm going to create a new class A, and go save, and go run, then I'm only going to get var 1 and 2 because this class only allows me access to this one, whereas this one, a new class B, allows me access to this plus what's in here as well. So I could also do this another way. I could actually have, and this might get a little bit confusing, so I'll do it down here. Copy V, and I'm going to go V new class 1 is equal to A, new class 2 is equal to B. So I can actually have, so let's just rem that out at this point in time because we don't want that there. Now I can actually have new class 1 to access those and a new class 2 to access the third variable. So the new class 2 is the B that actually accesses that, but we can actually have a new class A that we're accessing those via a call that way. Doesn't make any difference. So if we just run that one there and run it, you'll see we've got var 1, var 2, var 3. So they all actually come. Now I can also just take that out through there. So this is the point. So I can actually just go var 2, and we should, because that var 2 I'm getting via this class which extends through here, but we haven't got a class, so I shouldn't get a B. So sorry, I shouldn't get the var 2. So if we just run that one there, we'll get var 1 and we get var 3, but we won't get var 2 because var 2 is calling a new instance of class A that we haven't got. So we can we can actually make two instances, or we can just use the one instance and come through here to reach and to get those ones there. So that's extending things through there. So what I quite like with this tutorials here is he says, okay, then that's the principle of it. So now let's apply it to our windows. So now let's go on to number 6 with the windows through there. And said, okay, then this is what we've got here. We've got the window. We've got the nested window in here still the same. We've got our very original one going through there, although there's a slight tweak on it. No, nothing much at all. And then we've got a new class called Notepad, which extends the Windows class. And what this does, I'm just going to close down that, is that we've got on here, we're going to run Notepad. So in all the previous examples that we had, if we wanted to have a Notepad, we actually had to go manually start Notepad. So in our extended class, it's got one method added, and the one method added is run. So we've done that. Now let me just look, because I fiddle with this as I go through, and I'm shocking at it. Now that's a class, and it comes down to there, and we've got, so his one starts off with that one there. So that means he has a new Windows class, and he has a new SumNot class. In fact, now when we go through this one and look at his particular code through here, you might notice this was playing me up before and I had to tweak it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is something I'm going to set it back as to what it was doing before, and I'm going to have, and it was actually quite interesting. So what was actually happening here? Oh, actually, this one had some template. So sorry, let me just grab that, and it's quite interesting what happens here. And I can't remember what the other one is. No, okay, then let's just have that through there. And so there's going to be a few little hiccups on this one here. So we declare the class, we got the window class through there, and it's got the little temp thing down the bottom through there, and then we're extending the class with the Notepad. And all the Notepad extension of Windows, it has all of these things here, which you see are general things. They're not specific to this one here. No, none of them are specific to Notepad. All these ones here are just about getting the window title and getting the window ID. Now that could be a Notepad, or it could be Visual Studio, or it could be anything, and it's just activating the window via the ID. So again, nothing about Notepad in here, and it's just saying we can do this or we can't do this. So it's only, so that's why at the beginning when we were doing it in these early ones, I'll talk about that later, is basically we've suddenly specified only running inside Notepad, and we've done something through there. So we'll talk about some of that. And those were done down in these hotkeys down through here. So we'll talk that later. So that the class itself was quite general, but this class here has now made it specific to Notepad because we're going to trigger Notepad. So when we trigger Notepad, it's the one that we're now going to activate and use. So we've got two instances. We've got an instance of the original class, and we've got an instance of the extension through here. So let's just run that one here, and this I found confused me quite a lot. And let's just do this. So Control Alt A. It's not running. Where did that go? Z. Yeah, you see. So I've got other things on top of there. So we've got run. So it's now running. So I can come down here and go Control Alt A, and it brings up Notepad, and it brings up the identity of the Notepad through there. Okay. So that's quite easy. So when we look at this now, and this is something that caught me out quite a lot, we're using the instance of some not to actually go inside the windows and activate this. So this, now if I run Control Alt S, says there's no ID. Well, we've got our thing, it's open, it's running, it's here. So why isn't it saying it's not running? The reason it's not running is because I'm using a different instance. So if I come into here and I do a message box of, well, actually I'm going to do two message boxes. So this is what actually clarifies things out a bit. And I'm going to have some, when I think I can actually put that onto there, B, see what happens. Oops. Save, run. So it's running. Shift Control run. There we are. So now if I go Control Alt A, so it's now running and it's now coming through with the pop-up box. It was a bit slow before, so I ended up putting a sleep in here. Let's just see what happens there. I'll save and I'll reactivate that, and I'll go Control Alt A. I was having too many things running, so it's actually doing what was happening. It would start the running of this, but this was taking so slow to open that this was giving me the title and the PID of the VS Code. So I actually had to put a sleep into there. So it's not doing that at this point in time. So that's good. So that was a bit of a distraction. Let's just drop that through again. And so we can close that down. And when we run A, it's running it. So we're using Control Alt A. Now you see there is done the Visual Studio Code. So I should have, I'm going to bring that sleep and I'm going to make it 500, which seems to be better. And we go save and we go, and we can close that down. So if I go Control Alt A, that brings us through and it gives us our notepad. And this one here is called E8E at the end. Doesn't really make any difference. So we've got that active now. Now if I go Control Alt S, I'm just going to put quote dash quote into there, see if that still works. So Control S there and Control Alt A and Control Alt S. Now here you see it's only giving me the ID of SumNot, which is the instance of the new notepad. So this is why I'm looking for the SumWin ID that it can't find it, because it's not associated with that instance. So I'm saying we've started the program and we've gone through and we've gone get and using the SumNot. So we've got that instance that's going through and getting me the instance of the window. So that's associated with this instance of the class new notepad. So when I call through here in message box to get the instance of some window ID, there isn't one, because we haven't got an instance of that. We haven't run a get on the different window one. I've run a get on this instance of this. So this spent me into a spin for a while. So what I can actually do is that I can do a couple of things. One, I can make the get is to go and get, but you see I started with run on the SumNot, so I've got to get the SumNot. So I'm getting that instance of the notepad that was started with that instance there, which is the SumNot. So that's what all of those are, but these are with the SumWin. So all of the SumWin need to convert to SumNot. Then I can activate it. So if I go SumNot there, and now if I go and reload that and go Control Alt A, we've got that, and that pops up there, and then we go Control Alt S, we've got that, and then it pops up. So it activates them because we're coming through. We've got that data, so we've got the ID to call this new one there. So that's why we don't get that error running out, because we actually do have, because and it says run SumWin to get, and we shouldn't. We've actually got to run SumNot to get, because we activated it through there. So that's one interesting thing to actually find out. The other thing is as well is when I do D. So save. So I'll reload that one there again, and then I go Control Alt D, and I get this because I'm running through this instance here. But I don't actually need that instance at all. So I can actually remove this one here and remove that instance and reload. And if I go Control Alt D, I get nothing. So I've got two ways. So I actually need that some window. To be able to get the things inside. So to get those inside there, I can now access them, but I can't access them through the SumNot. Now what do I have to do about that? So that only takes me, so that this extends Windows to everything. So it extends for the get, activate, and announce, but it doesn't seem to extend through to the class, through to the temp, the nested one. So I need to get to those nested ones via a different method. So there's some win ones through there, because I can't reach them the other way. The other way to do it is, instead of actually doing the sum win, I could actually say it's a new window dot temp, and then I could actually just write some win without the dot temp through there to actually do it. So that's another way to do it, the thing through there. And again, yeah, so just leave that as it was before. And then to now the interesting thing is, I think some not dot temp dot a is equal to 3, we'll say. And if I now run that, I go Control Alt and D, you see it actually comes through as 3. So I can use the sum not to push things into there. So I've got a feeling that if I actually do sum not, let's just do some not there for temp A. No, actually, let's just do it for temp B as well. So instead of some when, I'm going to use some not and reload that one there and go Control Alt D. You see I can actually reach them both then. So I don't actually need some when here, but because I'm going down an extra step, although some not, so what that means in a way is some not extends, so it extends the class windows, but it doesn't extend to the class temp. So we've got to put .temp to go in to access that part of the thing through there. So that we've got to use a some not .temp.a to then assign something to that variable. So that's the thing with that. So and then he's got two other things through here that are also quite interesting. So if we just come back to there and go into the second one, is he starts talking about the class new. So I like the inheritance, is really good. So if we just close that off there at this point in time and close out of there, let's imagine that we want an actions to occur while we create the instance. So we create the instance and then we initialize it. So at the moment we're stopping everything and using hotkeys to actually activate a lot of the methods through here. So to initialize those actions, we actually have our class and we create a new, and then inside of that we do some activities and stuff. So let's go and look at that. So what that says here is we have a class Windows and we have the class temp, and which has got those through there. We've got the get, we've got the activate, we've got the announce, we've got the extended class through here, and inside here we've got the run, but we've also got one called new, and the new does this dot run. So when we run this instance, it will do a run on there. So when we run, when we create a new instance, it will run, and so it will activate Notepad, and then it will also get the window data from that straight away. So although because it's got an extension, so all we actually need to do at this point in time, let's just have a look and see what the code says on this one. So we've got knots on all of these. That one's still got win. So I'm just going to change that to not, and that one there to not. Although it's not quite repeating in a way, some not. So on here, supposedly we don't need that some win one, so we can leave that out there. And now you see, if we run this straight away, so we're going to run it, say run, and you see straight away it opens. So we didn't actually have to run our hotkey to activate it. So the new actually does the activation. So we completely removed actually needing to do. So if we want to start a new instance and have a whole lot of events take place, then that'll do it straight away. So that's a nice thing with that instance. And now if I run Control Alt S, Control Alt S, we've done some not activate. Just run that again. So that's there and that started. We click that out and go Control Alt S. Now that should be, I don't know what, maybe I've got to have that somewhere in there for a new window. Let's just go back and do that there. And we'll reload that, and that's activated that. We click somewhere and then we go Control Alt S, and that activates through there. So for some unknown reason I do need the sum windows, because it's not reaching in and getting these two elements, or it's not getting this element here to actually do it. So that's why I need that, even though I'm going through some not and it's getting the right ID. I need this, well actually that doesn't, I'm confused by that, but somehow I need those. So I'm not too sure. I might have to think about that a bit more. But what it means is that the starting U triggers this straight away. And then if I do Control Alt and D, we get the A equals and the B equals. So we're reaching in and being able to do that through the sum not. Although again, if I do the sum when, it should also be, well, although that one's not doing anything, it's really that one there, B, and I just need to change that to a B. Save, and we'll there, and Control Alt D, and then we get it through there again. So we can do it through some when, and we can do it through some although we're reaching in and getting those variables, and we can do it by both methods, by going through this instance or this instance as well. So we can reach through both. So the last one that it comes down to, and this is where it sort of starts making a little bit of sense to me, is that in here we have the class windows, we have the class temp. We're now extending the class notepad, and then we're also doing a class calc. So the class calc extends windows. So the class calc extends all of that up there, and the class notepad extends all the stuff up there. But the class notepad and the class calc don't do anything. So when we look at this a little bit more closely, this windows and this temp, you'll see at no point in here is anything mentioned about notepad or calc or anything else at all. It's just all general about a window. When you get a window, that all windows are going to have a title, all windows are going to have an ID, all windows are going to have a size, all windows are going to have a position. So those things are just general. So this class is a general thing to do with windows. Then we're creating a class called notepad that extends windows, and this one only runs, so this one runs notepad, and this calc one extends window, and this one runs calc. So if we now run this through here, what it's going to do, it's going to come through the whole thing itself, because there's no stops or anything like that, there's no returns. It's going to come all the way down here. It's going to create a new window. It's going to create, it's going to create a new instance of the window. It's going to create a new instance of the notepad, and it's going to create a new instance of a calculator. And then in each one, it's going to create a new run, and it's going to run and start up a new calculator, and it's going to run and start up a new notepad. So I just close the notepad down, and I don't think I have anything else open. So if I now run this program, Control Alt, Shift Run, it's opened up Notepad and it's opened up Calculator. So therefore, the extension, I can actually suddenly say, well, I want a new class called Firefox Browser. And so it's going to open up my browser every time I do it. So I can use all of this other stuff here, because this is just things to do with the general window. And I've got all of these, the announcement properties, or the activate, or the get information. And I can have other properties or manipulate different properties, and always make sure that this window is, my Firefox is opened up and it's sitting up, it's sized over here, and it's sitting up in that proportion over there. Automatically, I can actually just trigger 3 or 4 different things and say, go and do these, and have your windows set up straight away. So I can actually, this is just general things, and these are all functionalities to do with Windows, and then this is saying this is specific to Notepad, go and get those, and it can actually make these things do the stuff through there. And this one here is for the calculator, and you can say, put it in this position. So I want my calculator down here, and I want my other one there. So you can set up your desktop straight away. So that one class allows you to do little extensions onto it. So I really like, so what's that? So you can use the inheritance, and use the inheritance of the original window and extend it through to another thing there. So I thought that, I suddenly think, so it's a great tutorial from the point of view of adding that extra thing. So that's how the new ones, and he says like, and there's a del like new where the instance is deleted, but I'm not sure how that works. But I suppose from the point of view, you actually have a new, and then you can suddenly say, do these things here. So it might go and do a little web scrape or something like that and get some information that you want, and then just say shut it down afterwards. You got that, go and store it somewhere, and I don't need you to do it, so just turn that instance off. I don't need you anymore. So you can actually have little programs to actually activate and do things. So the nested class and the inheritance class, I can see how this works. I think this is a very nice example of how the inheritance works and is demonstrated with those windows. I don't think his nested one quite gives the picture, so I'm going to have to do a little bit more research about that. But overall, I think this is a great tutorial, and my first go-to place, I must admit, is actually to go to YouTube, and then when I'm actually working on the stuff itself, I'll come through and go through into the forum and get a bit of code and try a lot of things until I get the sort of a feel of what it's doing. So I think this is a very, very useful code. So I hope samardac doesn't mind me actually creating this video for other people, and I hope it's helpful to you. I'll put this code up there. It's basically his one's down there. I haven't bothered downloading the first couple through there, and I'll put a link through to the forum item, of course, as well. So thank you very much for watching. I hope it's of use to you. Thank you very much.